Alice and Nicholas are an eager trying to conceive couple, and they have just concluded their fourth hormone treatment, which was unsuccessful. To get their minds off their situation, they decide to go on a vacation. There, they meet an overbearing couple with their 2 kids. Their daughter reminds Alice of the pregnancy she had at the start of their relationship. They face their fears head-on during this vacation and get to bring back the spark to their waning relationship. The film starts on a somber note. Alice recounts her dream where she meets a little girl on the beach. Their hopes are dashed to the ground when a visit to the hospital confirms her fears. The doctor informs them that their latest procedure failed. Alice is emotionless as she walks off to fix her clothes. Their doctor is sympathetic. She advises them on the implications of the treatment on her health. Due to the stress the procedure has had on Alice's body, she suggests to the couple that they take a step back and do something fun for themselves. They are reminded that they can no longer be funded as they have passed the 4th attempt benchmark, so they have to pay for the procedure. Their financial situation is quite glaring. When Nicholas' card declines during payment, Alice promises to wire the payment at a later date. They are both quiet on their way home. Alice is deep in thought as her heart tugs at the children playing on the street. At home, construction is in earnest as they are working on it. Alice occupies her time by tending to her flowers. Nicholas notices her sad mood, and he draws her into a comforting embrace. They take the doctor's advice to have some fun. They decide to go on a vacation at a beach house. After some misturns and a wait at the ferry, their conversations are stilted, and they act more like strangers than a couple. Alice keeps having flashbacks of their previous trip to the beach, which has continued to haunt her. They arrive at the beach house, and she gets a call from their construction manager. Inside, they find a children's bed in one of the rooms with a doll placed on it. It puts a dent in their mood, and Alice tells him to verify if it's truly their house. Through their window, they notice a couple arrive with their 2 kids at the house next door. They are apprehensive talkative couple, a curious little girl, and a moody teen next door are what they need for a vacation. They overhear their new neighbors talking about them. Nicholas notices Alice's quiet mood. He tries to lift her spirit and teases her with the promise of food and dessert, but she is worried about their finances. She is not sure if they can afford the vacation. Nicholas insists that they need it, and he draws her into a sweet embrace as their neighbors' voices filter into their house. Nicholas is ravenous at dinner. Alice smiles as she watches him finish up his meal. They share stories from when he was a young boy with his grandma. They share a smile and pause their conversation, while they listen to the back and forth between their neighbors. Their little girl, Denise, asks her mom to tuck her into bed while the mom, who's obviously tired, asks for some respite from her daughter. When Nicholas goes to fetch another bottle of wine, Alice's mood changes as she continues to listen in on their neighbor's conversation. The woman from next door, Crystal, comes out to the porch to smoke and have some alone time. The next morning, Alice goes on a run. She returns and finds their neighbor's daughter, Denise, playing on the floor. They look at each other as she walks into her house. Later, she comes out to the porch with some snacks to do some work. She finds her neighbor Crystal exercising with Denise nearby. She observes them as the little girl asks her mother for lunch. She receives a call from the contractor working on their house, and the young girl Denise approaches and smiles at her. She requests for some of Alice's snacks and does not wait for permission before taking a bite. She is surprised at the girl and tells her to take all of it. The little girl is happy as she scurries away to her mother. Crystal comes over and thanks her for the snacks. Nicholas wakes up from all the noise from the neighbors. He suggests to Alice to quit worrying over their house, but she is adamant about having a roof over their heads. Conversations from their neighbors drone in their voices. They smile over little Denise's sharp-witted tongue. Denise's father, Robert, greets them. He looks funny, pumping the crocodile ballon with his mouth, since they forgot to bring air pump. Alice and Nicholas laugh at him as his daughter encourages him to keep pumping. They do not feel comfortable with the loud noise and chatter from their neighbors, so Nicholas promises to change their beach house for another. He approaches the reception and asks for a change, but he is interrupted by their neighbor, Robert. He is caught and tries to cover up, so he informs the receptionist that they prefer a house facing the sun. Robert is sad about this, so he tries to find out if his family is the reason for their move. Nicholas calms him, and he tells him that they prefer a sunny house. Robert informs him that his family would rather do the moving because they do not have a children's bed for their kids. Nicholas is surprised and tells him about the kids' room in his house. The receptionist finds a suitable house for him, but as an afterthought, Nicholas decides to keep the house. Robert does not take the receptionist's offer of getting someone to pick up the bed, and he decides that he and Nicholas will do the lifting. So Nicholas is forced to agree to help Robert. They exchange names. Back at the beach house, Robert teases Nicholas about being a city boy. He hopes he does not hurt his back from carrying the bed. Robert's moody son, David, watches them from the swing with a frown on his face. They are all at the beach having some time under the sun. Alice sits alone in deep thought close to the waves. Little Denise approaches her. She observes Alice and concludes that she is sad. She draws a sad face on the sand and tells Alice that the sad face is her. Alice is surprised at her conclusion. Denise leaves her to respond to her mother's call to apply some sunscreen. Alice joins Nicholas relaxing on a lounger. He teases her about making a new friend. He also lies to her that the resort is fully booked. They wave at their neighbors, and Alice admits that Denise is a good girl. They share a pretty fun moment gossiping and laughing over their neighbors' accents. She is clearly worried about the sad woman comment by Denise, so she inquires from him if she has sadness written all over her. Nicholas stops short at her question and is quick to reassure her that she is beautiful and not sad. Alice smiles at his response and observes them with a deep yearning for what they have. As she watches, their neighbors encourage Denise to go into the water. Later on, she joins Nicholas and the neighbors for some beer and introductions outside. They comment on Nicholas' car with the Vienna plate, and he tells them that he went there on business and got stuck when he met his wife, Alice. The neighbors are nosy. Crystal comments on Alice's sunburn while Robert asks why she works constantly on her computer. She appears uncomfortable with their questions but tells them she is working on renovating their house. Crystal analyzes Alice's signs based off what she just told them. Robert is proud to announce to them that his wife is an astrologer. Their son David is fed up with all the noise coming from the adult. He walks inside, slams the door, and slides the curtains to block off their chatter. It's an uncomfortable silence, and Crystal breaks it and tells them they are lucky for not having kids. Little Denise calls out for her parents. Robert invites Nicholas to a tennis match for later. Alice and Nicholas are out for dinner, and they wonder why a nearby couple bothers to have a child when they ignore their son while he plays with his iPad. Nicholas concludes that they probably envy them for not having children. Their dinner date goes well as Alice is in great spirits and somewhat drunk from the wine. She teases Nicholas for having extra servings of food. She drags him reluctantly to the empty dance floor to dance. They look happy as they intimately dance in each other's arms. It's nighttime back at the house, and the couple shares a private moment in bed. Nicholas queries Alice about not wearing sunscreen during the day as he massages her body with some cream to soothe her sunburns. Nicholas balks at the idea of sharing a private moment with Alice, and he leaves her unsatisfied as he steps out. As she relaxes on the bed, she overhears their neighbors discussing their son David. Robert is at his wits' end with his son. He complains that the boy has changed from the sweet little boy he was to some moody teenager he does not recognize. He complains of the boy's lack of interest in any sports or handwork, unlike him when he was his age. Crystal advises him to take it easy. She assures him that the boy will get past the phase. The next morning, Nicholas finds David standing outside a bakery and staring through the glass. He walks off when he spots Nicholas looking at him. Nicholas returns to find Alice on a call with someone. She tries to solve their financial issues by trying to increase their credit limit. He goes over to pick his scattered papers and finds their neighbors sharing a private moment in their backyard. He watches them as he finds the scene fascinating. Alice finishes with her call and finds him rooted to a spot. She is annoyed when she sees his object of fascination, Crystal, especially since he refuses to touch Alice even when she initiates it. She continues to be mad with him on the tennis court. Nicholas has no idea of what he has done wrong. Alice tries to have some alone time in the house, but her favorite Denise comes calling. She tells Alice that she is sad without any reason. Alice allows her to come in and offers her some snacks when she asks for some. Alice has quickly become fond of the little girl and their moments of sharing snacks. They hear Crystal call out for Denise. Alice informs her that she is with her. Crystal walks in topless to take Denise home. Alice is surprised at Crystal's nudity, but she finds Nicholas intrigued. Denise queries her mom about coming naked to their neighbor's house, but Crystal argues that she has pants on. Alice sees David through her window. He hides it when his father approaches him. He is uninterested in all the fun activities like swimming and tennis that Robert invites him to. He puts on his headset to tune him out, and Robert leaves him alone when he notices that the boy cannot be pleased. David notices Alice watching him, and they stare at each other. Alice and Nicholas are lounging by the beachside. She plans their activities for the day on her phone. Nicholas complains about an uncomfortable air between them, but Alice claims oblivious to it. She is approached by Denise again, and the little girl begs her to play with her in the sand. They have a wonderful time playing with sand. Denise is religious, and she tells Alice all about her children's choir, church, and prayers. She is surprised when Denise tells her the importance of prayers for wishes to come true. The little girl tries on her expensive glasses, and she runs off into the water with it. Alice chases after her into the water, but the sunglasses gets broken by mistake. When Crystal dives into the water, she is furious that her girl is in the water without her water wings. Alice has no idea about it and tries to apologize, but Crystal waves it off. Nicholas and Robert bond over a grueling game of tennis. Over drinks, Robert brags to Nicholas about his magnificent wine cellar, which is his sanctuary when he needs peace. They observe Crystal pass by while scolding Denise. Robert seems obviously stressed out from having kids. He envies Nicholas, who he assumes does not want kids. Alice and Nicholas are tidying up the kitchen. She is still angry with him over the topless Crystal issue. The air is tense between them. She suddenly asks him if he considers remarrying. Nicholas is dumbstruck. He does not know what to make of what she said. She hits the nail on the head when she asks him if he would rather sleep with Crystal. Nicholas continues to stare at her in shock and silence. They go on a hike the next day. Nicholas chatters about including more features in their house. Alice is annoyed at his continuous chattering, so she stops walking. but he does not notice until he has reached a distance. He goes back to her, and they find a spot to cool off. Alice does not think she deserves a new house when she has no child. She suggests to Nicholas that they sell the house. Nicholas assures her that they deserve good things even without a child. He reminds her of other options like adoption, but Alice is adamant about having her own kids that look like them. She is annoyed that Nicholas does not take her seriously. She accuses him of always avoiding serious issues. Nicholas makes matters worse when he reminds her that her wish might not come true. She is angry and storms off towards their beach house on foot. Nicholas is left alone, surrounded by other couples at the diner as he has dinner by himself. He returns to the house and finds Alice lying down on the couch. She is remorseful and apologizes for creating a scene earlier. They go swimming at the swimming pool where they get intimate and share a personal moment together. Alice is not satisfied with the moment they shared. She complains about not having more intimate moments with him. The next morning, Nicholas tries to catch some fun with Robert, who walks him through some climbing tips. Alice wakes up to their noise. She is piqued when she finds Nicholas in cahoots with Robert and also preparing to go climbing without her. Nicholas assures Robert that he is not in trouble. Alice asks him if he is on vacation with Robert or her, and he dismisses her and tells her that he has had climbing in mind for years. Alice is angry, and she expresses her displeasure and throws a tantrum in the washroom. She goes to play tennis to work off her anger, but her game is interrupted by her phone. She gets livid when the caller informs her of some financial issues concerning their house. She is worked up and accuses the caller of speaking rudely to her. She ends the call and calls it a day on the court. Annoyed at her phone's constant ringing on her way home, she throws it into the bin and continues her walk. She finds David listening to some loud music on his headset. She joins him to lay down on the field, and they observe a group of women doing yoga. She tries to draw him into a conversation, and they talk about nothing and everything. He speaks to her more than he has spoken to his parents. Nicholas and Robert are on a high rock overlooking the beautiful scenery, and they share a smoke. Both men are in deep thought. Robert speaks vaguely about taking a small step off the rock and dying, but Nicholas does not understand. They return home, and Nicholas finds Alice reclining on the lounger, listening to some music without any care in the world. Robert interrupts them and invites them to dinner. She looks on at the camaraderie between the men. Nicholas promises her that they won't stay for long. She pops on her headset and continues to ignore him while he stares at her, surprised at her nonchalant behavior. It's time for dinner, but Alice has no plans to attend. Nicholas leaves the house to their neighbors. He informs them that she has a heat stroke and won't make it to dinner. Alice works on her computer while munching on some snacks. She overhears them and asks him about their house construction. The men launch into a discussion on construction. Little Denise visits her and tells her it's not good to be alone. She asks her if she is still angry with her over the spoilt sunglasses, and she replies yes, but hands over the sunglass to her, already fixed. Denise wears it and leans on Alice's shoulder. Alice stares at her longingly as she hugs the little girl to herself. Denise leaves for dinner so she can have some ice cream. At dinner, Nicholas watches quietly as Robert leads the conversation. Alice joins them and claims she came out for ice cream. Nicholas is pleased to see her, and he lights up when he looks at her, while Robert runs around to get her the ice cream of her choice. David joins them at the table. Crystal leaves him a scathing remark, but he ignores her. Crystal tries to find out their couple's horoscope, and she gets some information from Alice. With her astrological skills, she informs them that they are a great combination. She hints that their signs make it difficult for them to have a child. Robert tells her to drop the issue. He knows it will hurt Alice, but Crystal does not take the hint. Alice looks at Nicholas, suspecting that he has discussed their problem with Robert. She is uncomfortable as Crystal goes on about the issue. She compares her situation to theirs. She ends up describing her pregnancy with David as an accident, and David stops eating for a second. The tension in the air could be cut with a knife, and Robert tries to ease it by telling them that things will get better for them. Alice chips in that it is not possible for them. Crystal is oblivious to the tense air. She tells Alice that a woman can also be fulfilled without kids. Robert is furious at this point and screams at her to shut up. He apologizes to their guests for Crystal's behavior, but she is nonplussed. Alice decides to pay Nicholas back for discussing their affairs with a stranger. She divulges her haunting secret to them. She tells them that she was once pregnant, but they agree to remove it because they had just started dating. Since then, they have been unsuccessful in trying for another child. Nicholas tries to stop her from talking about it, but she ignores him, and he walks off from the table in anger. Robert lightens the air by talking about the weather. Nicholas is deep in thought in the room with a glass of wine. Alice comes in, and they stare at each other. Alice accuses him of starting it when he talked to Robert about their situation, but he claims he did so because he needed to talk to someone. Alice is hurt that he did not consider talking to her. She wonders if she disgusts him so much that he has been unable to touch her for some months. He claims that he has not been in the mood. They have a bitter fight and bandy words. Alice accuses him of not being able to impregnate her because of his slow sperm. Nicholas is hurt by her statement and warns her to take it back, but she ignores him. He retorts and accuses her of wanting intimate moments with him just for the purpose of having a child. Alice hits him where it hurts most. She accuses him of being the problem behind their condition. He is furious at her accusations and throws his glass at the wall. She walks out in anger to her car and drives off with her music blaring. It is already late when she arrives at an outdoor cafe. The barista serves her some coffee. She sits with the barista and takes the chance to vent her anger and frustration that has been bottled up for years. She recounts her experience with the countless fertility procedures and how it has affected her relationship with Nicholas. She claims that they have lost the spark in their relationship in the pursuit of a child. Their private moments have become programmed, and there is no more spontaneity in their love life. She admits that the entire cycle has made her detest her husband, but she is still forced to lie down with him. She deems the procedure degrading and decides to end it all. The barista listens to her in silence as Alice vents out her frustration about scientists who invent these procedures that are not working. She admits that she does not think she can stop until she gets to menopause at 46. Back at the beach house, Nicholas stands outside waiting for her, but she does not return home. Alice feels lighter and more peaceful after talking. She finds herself in the morning, sleeping on the lounger with the barista from the other night. She walks on barefoot to the cliff right above the water for some much-needed alone time. Nicholas is woken up from his sleep by shouts. He runs to where the noise is coming from and finds David lying unconscious. Crystal is hysterical, and Robert tries to console her. Other people are gathered in shock as they watch paramedics try to resuscitate the boy before loading him into the ambulance. He runs to the beachside where he finds Alice. They share a long hug and return back to the beach house. It's late, and Alice is concerned that their neighbors are not back at the house yet. The next morning, they watch through the window as a subdued Robert loads up his car with their things. They learn that David took all the drugs they had. He has been pumped, but they are waiting for him to wake up. He is emotional as he tells them that the boy had everything he ever wanted. They extend their sympathies to him, and he thanks them for being good neighbors. Alice asks to see Crystal, but he tells her that it is too soon to see her. They walk to the house, and they watch the family drive off. Denise and Crystal are obviously affected as they walk slowly to the car. A melancholic air develops between Alice and Nicholas. Each person is in their own thought as they process the event that just happened. It's time to go home, so they take a trip back to the ferry. They stand on the deck overlooking the water. Alice gets another flashback of their happier times between them at the beach and also of the little girl she would have had. Nicholas informs her that David has woken up. They are happy for them. Alice admits that she feels like a loser just like David. They share a hug and return back to their house, which is still under construction. Over coffee, they talk about new features to add to their house since money is no longer a problem for them. Their future is not as bleak as it once seemed.